Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, and anyone in between. All views, all comments, all shares are appreciated. Continuing on, there's still a few talking points, so without further ado, let's get into it. So as most of you would have no doubt seen, on Monday there was the Misfits press conference for KSI and Tommy Fury and Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis. Now, yeah, not historically like full boxing, but it's within the realm, I suppose, so it's worth talking about just for terms of the antics. Now look, when it comes to Logan Paul, for instance, he's always pretty good for a press conference. Jake is a bit more of he seems a bit more chilled out, but Logan seems more like the more practical joker out of the two. And you know, I saw a lot of the stuff online. Dylan Dennis talking about his soon-to-be wife, his fiance, and maybe her past, for lack of a better word. And you know, a lot of people thought that would really get to Logan and that he would be really angry and raging at the press conference, but no, he actually seemed pretty cool. He managed to get his lickbacks in a few, sort of a few ways, and that was interesting and funny. You know, Tommy Fury seemed to be the most quote unquote professional out of all of them on the stage at that particular time. KSI was KSI and Dylan Dennis was Dylan Dennis. I watched it late, to be honest. I didn't watch it on the day, but it was cool, I suppose. Then you had Big John Fury. Now, he might not think he's a clown, but he's definitely a part of the circus, because he was quite happy to engage in all of the shenanigans, regardless of what he wants to say on social media or at the press conference. Or can we get on with it, blah blah blah. He just wanted to have a chance to act up, because anytime there's a camera in front of him, that's what he does. Did he go overboard? I have no idea. That's up to other people, but at this point it's like, this guy's damn near 60 years old and he's acting worse than these people in their mid-20s. Not really a great look, if we're going to be honest. He put out some kind of apology on social media, I think it was yesterday. He apologized for the language that he used, which I don't really remember much of it, if anything, apart from maybe talking about his nutsack. But he didn't apologize for his actions, which is very telling when people give you that little misdirect. So he's apologized if he maybe used some bad language, because obviously at the press conferences, when you swear and whatever, they have to say, yeah, apologies for any bad language you may have heard, or if you was offended by that. And he's done the same thing. Okay, yeah, if I swore, I apologize for that, but I don't apologize for flipping over tables and kicking tables and breaking people's glasses and whatnot. No, I don't apologize for that. I'm gonna be honest though, I've seen quite a lot of the Misfits cards. The pay-per-view ones, I've never purchased one of them. Never had any interest, because I've always been able to watch them the following day. However, there is maybe a 35% chance that I could purchase this one. We'll see how we go. So the entire card for the Jack Catterall and Jorge Linares fight, which is taking place in Liverpool on the 21st of October, has come out now. I can't remember all of the fights off the top of my head. The only one I can remember is Akib Fiaz against Reece Bellotti. And I said on Twitter when I saw the card, apart from that fight, every other fight on that card to me just looks like booty juice. I'm not happy with that card at all. I did speak with Frank Smith regarding that card a couple weeks back at one of the AJ presses, and he said, look, well, obviously Jorge Linares has a pretty big following, like in Manchester and such, and it's all about more activity for Jack Catterall. And yeah, while it might be, he's only been in the ring twice in the last 3 years. I understand that, but he can have activity against better levels of opposition. The last time Jorge Linares stepped up to 140 pounds, he got knocked out in one round against, I think it was Sergio Cano or Pablo Cano, one of the two. I can't remember the first name, but I know his surname's Cano. And he's lost his last 3 fights on the bounce, one of them via knockout, the other 2 by unanimous decision. How is that an interesting fight for your guy when Matchroom has arguably the best roster of 140 pounders in the game right now? Obviously some of these aren't available, but you've got Richardson Hitchens, you've got Montana Love, you've got Stevie Spark, you've got Liam Parrow. Hell, you could even possibly put Brock Jarvis back up to 140. I think he's campaigning up there at this point. He's still affiliated with, I guess, Matchroom or DAZN through their Australian side. Actually, I need to double check if he is still with the team, but I know he was signed to Matchroom. I'm sure he's still got some fights left on that deal. There's, obviously you got Regis Prograis. The list goes on. There's others, and it's just like, okay, so you've got this big roster of 140 pounders. You've got a champion over there. Obviously Regis is doing his thing. He's trying to get the Haney fight, so I understand that Catterall's not the new mandatory, but is there not anyone better you could find than going on 38-year-olds Jorge Linares? That's on back-to-back losses. And then the rest of the card it's not a card that I should be looking forward to on my subscription. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of different boxing that comes on DAZN at the moment. Like the OTX, the overtime boxing thing, is actually pretty cool. I like the concept. I've been watching those events. Those are pretty good. Golden Boy have got some decent events coming up in October as well, so I can sort of get with that. But it's just that, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Matchroom must deliver A-star cards every single week, because realistically last week they just had a next gen card, which admittedly at the first I thought this card doesn't look that appealing, but I was there. It was entertaining, not from start to finish, but it was entertaining. I had good action, I was around good people, and it delivered. Same as the one in March that they did delivered as well. But yeah, to me, I just can't agree with that card, especially if you've got someone like Catterall who needs to be stepping in with like good quality opponents. Again, Jorge Linares, he's a legend. Like, there's no disputing that. There's no counting him out. Like, he's done some great things in his career, but his career's over, and that shouldn't be the guy that you're putting one of your quote-unquote best prospects at this point in with, your unofficial champion, because he was screwed against Josh Taylor. There's no if, buts and maybes about that. He should have won that fight, but he just needs to be in there with a better level of opponent. I said, why is he not in there against like Stevie Spark? He lost his last fight via split decision, but again, people who watched that fight realized that he didn't lose. So that could be a battle of the uncrowned guys, so to speak. And I know Stevie Spark will he'll give him good work. Montana Love, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what his contract situation is like at the moment, but there is a lot of viable, like credible 140 pounders that you could put him in with. And you're giving us Jorge Linares, who isn't even a 140 pounder. Like, to me, I hated that matchup since I first saw it. I did want to speak with Eddie about it, but I wasn't able to. Obviously, I guess in that sense, I can't change it when they've already announced it. But to give, obviously to voice my displeasure as someone that has a yearly subscription to DAZN, I think you definitely have to kind of take heed in that. But look, it is what it is. The card's trash. I will have to cover it purely because the breakdown show. But that being said, that's not the card I will be watching or focusing on the 21st. Everyone knows what I'm gonna be. Everyone knows what I'm gonna be doing that day. Like, I will be at the O2 for Joshua Buatsi versus Dan Aziz. media accreditation or otherwise, I will be there, and that is what will be taking my focus. So yeah, overall, look, Matchroom had some pretty good schedule. Hasn't been the greatest this year, but they definitely need to do better than that as an offering towards the back quarter, especially when at the moment they're getting pretty much trounced by PBC and Top Rank. They're third in the run-ins this year. Right now they are third in the race. Potentially you might even say fourth if some of those if some of the golden boy cards come off towards the back end of the year. So they got some ground to make up. There are some other good cards on, but yeah, that just ain't it, and need to do better. But anyway, here's what it is. Now, I guess speaking of the Matchroom schedule a little bit, Joe Cordina is rumored to be fighting Edward Vasquez on their Monte Carlo card on the 4th of November, I believe it is. Now, that fight itself, okay, so this voluntary thing before possible unification or a mandatory has to come up, so that's cool. But it's the interesting thing for me is that on the undercard, you've got Yulisa Guzman versus Ramla Ali 2 supposedly scheduled. Now that to me is where it gets interesting, because we all pretty much saw what happened with Ramla Ali in the last fight. Brutally knocked out, I believe it was in the 7th round, it was the 7th or the 8th round, and she really took a slacking and tried to go power for power with Yulisa Guzman. Now, Ramla is the better boxer of the two, so boxing and moving is where she can kind of get her get back. But the question is, can she keep Guzman off of her for 10 rounds, especially knowing that essentially she can be hurt with any shot that gets thrown? That to me is a very interesting scenario. So that card I'm going to keep an eye on and see if that is the case. It's very ballsy to put her straight back in there with the woman that did brutally knock her out only a couple of months back. But yeah, I'm interested, so I'm going to keep an eye on that, and we'll see what happens with that one moving forward. So a couple months back, when they'd had the press conference for Usyk versus Dubois, Dev Sani did a couple of, I think they were called one-to-one or one-on-one with both Usyk and Daniel. They only came out this week on the Monday, I believe. Now, interestingly enough, Daniel's one, he said that maybe he'd let pressure get to him a little bit back in the day, but he's not too worried about that. That's just kind of it is what it is. He sort of was very nonchalant in what he was saying. Now, when it came to Usyk, I remember they had said that he was uncomfortable in the Derek Chisora fight, and did you feel necessary levels of uncomfort there? Now, he basically said, let people watch that fight and think that that's how to win against me, basically. Long story short, saying let people watch that fight and think that that's the keys to beating me. And then Dev basically put out, said, there was rumor that maybe you was holding back, or you was fighting within yourself, playing a little bit of possum so that you could get the Anthony Joshua fight. Is there any truth in that? And Usyk looks down, smiles a little bit, puts his eyes up, and then says, yes, it's true. Now, I've always kind of thought that he didn't play possum, but he didn't show his whole entire range. He's like, well, I don't need my full skill set against Derek Chisora, because I know that I'm levels above Chisora, so I'm going to just I know it's going to be difficult. He's going to try and rush me, he's going to ambush me. I just got to be careful, not take anything that I don't necessarily see coming. Just be relaxed, and as soon as I get my openings, I take over, and then I'll just push the pace on him. He won't be able to handle it. That's kind of how I saw it. Not necessarily a playing possum, but just I don't have to fight my best fight because you're not the best type of fighter. That's how I look at it. Him saying that, I feel, is just playing up to the cameras, or because what people want to think that, yeah, cool, it's true. Same as when sometimes AJ might say, oh well, yeah, well, I'm a stiff robot, so it is what it is. But then in secret, it's like, okay, well, I gotta work on my boxing. So I think, yeah, it's just him playing up to the expectations of the audience. I don't take too much stock in that, but it definitely was a case, in my opinion, that he was not boxing to his level, because Derek Chisora is not on his level, and he didn't need to be on his A game in order to beat him. Now, whether or not he could have stopped him had he have planted his feet a bit more. I mean, we all see what he did to Derek in the 7th round just before the bell went. Maybe he just thought Derek is too durable for me to be able to necessarily get out of there, so rather than be silly and maybe get caught in a battle I don't need to be caught in, I just box and move, hit him and not get hit by him, just sort of take him apart, win comfortably, and then move on to the next. Because you'll find a lot of times nowadays when boxers have a big fight on the horizon, quote unquote, they almost never look great the fight before, or if they do, it's never like a devastating, or they stay in the pocket, or you see them taking unnecessary chances because they're all looking at that pot of gold in the next fight or the fight after that. So obviously he showed his levels and his ability in his swan song in the first Joshua fight, and then in the second fight he wasn't as good as he was in the first, but he was good enough to still show the level differences. Like, I still had it the same score line, but I feel like in the first fight he like almost made a statement, and in the second fight he just backed up that statement, kind of thing, which could be a bit of a parallel for Terence Crawford and Errol Spence in their rematch. Like, Crawford showed his level, and I guess in the next one he'll probably just back up his level, so he may not be as destructive. It might actually be a little bit more competitive, but the result will still be the same, even if it ends earlier. But that's my thoughts on that one. So yeah, look, overall I feel like it was a nice little story, and it builds up this weekend quite lovely. Basis picks will be out tomorrow, so you'll get to see what I think about that, and also the Jared Anderson fight, which has definitely gone under the radar. Top Rank have not done a good job at reminding people that is taking place. There's a lot of heavyweights on the card, so I'm expecting a lot of good quality action and a lot of highlight reel knockouts. So yeah, with that being said, I'm going to leave this one here, and leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. Again, it's the Hardcore Casual out.